Welcome to a new edition of the Neon Jazz interview series with Brooklyn-based jazz saxophonist and composer Alex Weiss. He opened up about this new post-COVID world and his new 2023 album, Most Don't Have Enough. He has been playing saxophones for 35 years. He's played and recorded with great artists like Wadado Leo Smith, Chess Smith, and many others. In 2013, Alex had a son and put the horn down for years. He is now picking it back up. We get into that and more. Dig this interview.
I really enjoyed the album, and before we get into your album, I want to kind of broach a little bit of what, we've all gone through, but especially the jazz community, which has been hit really hard. COVID really ran through us hard for the last 3 years, and I'm wondering how you survived that time period and how it's changed the way that you approach things now.
Yeah, that's right. So it's made me kind of, I guess typically for a lot of people, it's made me practice more. It's made me, go in and do more challenging things that don't come so easy. And then it motivated me to write more as well. I think it's been pretty typical. There's been I don't want to underplay that or downplay it. In the city, as you can imagine, it's more congested. I live in Brooklyn, I've been not as inclined to go out and see music. I think people in general have been less enthusiastic about it. They don't want to take chances about things. And even though perhaps the latest strains have been less dangerous, just the spread of it and that whole thing, I think, really people have become, and rightfully so, they've learned to be less social. So, it trickles down to playing with other people and collaborating and the ease of getting together and rehearsing together, having gigs together. So my music has been kind of, I've been writing other stuff, and then with different instrumentations as well. The album, obviously, I wrote for a 5-piece. I'm writing more for a sort of classic 4-piece piano, bass, drum, saxophone lately. And it's actually influenced the kind of music that I want to play. More gentle stuff, ballad type stuff, more quiet and less busy music. I've been wanting to listen to string quartets in my life nowadays, in fact. And sometimes that music is very, very lively and very busy. But I've actually been listening again to the John Cage string quartets. I don't know if you've ever heard those. They're pretty dynamite. So I've just been sort of writing soft and not busy music. I'm trying to answer your question as honestly and as sort of introspectively as possible here. I have a quartet that I've been rehearsing with Santiago Leibson. I don't know if you know that piano player here in the city. He's dynamite. And we've you know Santiago?
Yeah.
We've been playing monk tunes with Dmitry Yashenko on bass again. He's the guy on my album. And then VJ Anderson's playing drums. I don't know if you know those two guys is playing at all, but I've known VJ for decades, since living in the Bay Area together. And we've been playing a bunch of different music, but a lot of monk tunes. So that's actually been getting me practicing Thelonious Monk music has been a very busy thing for me at home.
I think that covers it. And I think now that the world's kind of opening up, shows are happening. I have flashbacks to March of 2020 when everything shut down. Albums were coming out. Artists didn't know what they were going to do, but we're in a different landscape now. So it has to feel good to have an album coming out now with the possibility of live shows and just things that are kind of anew right now.
Yeah, that's for sure. exactly. People are coming out more and more. That's for sure. I mean, I guess very recently a new spike kind of happened with the COVID, but I think people more or less understand that it's a variant of a variant of a variant, and that the virus has kind of gotten weaker. So yes, I think people are coming out more. I think I'll be booking more shows. I think I'll be booking something. Yeah. So that's definitely happening, for sure.
So let's kind of peel back the layers and get back to the beginnings of you getting into music. Talk to me a little bit about where you were born and raised, maybe early influences, and how jazz resonated with you and kind of became who you are.
Yeah. So I was born in New York City, raised in the Boston, Cambridge area. And I began playing when I was 12 with this saxophone school called the John Payne Music Center. And I started playing in this saxophone choir, actually led by a pretty amazing sax player by the name of John Payne in Cambridge. And we would play once a week at a bar called the Tam O'Shanter in Cambridge. And I was very young. I was the youngest one in the choir. And then later on, years later, fast forward to high school, somebody turned me on to Coltrane. It was Coltrane that really took me by surprise. I couldn't believe how beautiful his music was. A Love Supreme, the late 50s stuff, the beat-boppy stuff as well, but not the super out stuff, but the stuff that was in the middle there. That really kind of turned me. It made me real. I couldn't believe how beautiful his music was, and sort of reinvigorated my interest, or really sparked an interest in pursuing that music. And a friend of mine named Marin Spivak, who was playing tenor. I was playing alto at the time, just alto, and he was a tenor player. He kind of inspired me to check that out. And then oddly enough, a few years later, after we graduated high school, we're living together and we're listening to an Albert Ayler record that John Chakai is on. And coincidentally, John Chakai lived in California. We were living in California, in San Francisco. And the album was the New York Ear and Eye Control record with Don Cherry and Albert Ayler. John Chakai's on it. Roswell Rudd's on it. And it just really spoke to me. And I guess serendipitously, I guess that's the word, or perhaps not, but I ended up collaborating with him years and years and years later, and working with him closely. So, but as far as early years are concerned, Coltrane's music just really spoke to me. Yeah. And I guess it's really typical. His sound is just so captivating, and his sort of spiritual bent is so, just strikes the center of your heart very easily. Yeah, that would be the early.
So what was the first live jazz show you ever saw that really blew you away?
Oh, yeah, great question. I saw Pharoah Sanders in Oakland, California at the first Yoshi's, and I cried. I could not believe how beautiful the music was. I remember my father he had cancer, and he passed away from cancer a couple of years later from hearing that concert, but he was in the thick of it then and getting chemotherapy and radiation. But that Pharoah Sanders concert really changed me. I was maybe 19 years old. And his sound just really blew me away. And his just whole approach to playing music and the power that it had, the emotional drive that it had, and just how it reached everybody in the room. So yeah, that would be that concert for sure.
When musicians, jazz musicians come to New York, I mean, I've been in Kansas City my whole life. We obviously are a cradle, and you just know about all these iconic places in New York. And as someone kind of from the outside that loves this music, I'm always curious when musicians actually arrive there, like what's the venue that you played at that totally kind of floored you, that you always dreamed you would, and how did you kind of get settled into that scene? I mean, it's the mecca of jazz in the world. How did that happen for you?
Right. Okay. So, well, I moved to New York 18 years ago, and I guess the venue I played at the sort of William Parker left of the dial jazz scene here was really the John Zorn, the Stone, these names and places were the place for me. William Parker and his wife. Are you familiar with William Parker? I'm sure you are.
Yeah, actually, I am. I've interviewed him, and
yes. Okay,
yeah.
okay,
yeah.
I pardon my ignorance.
It's all good.
Yeah. So I wanted to play at the the Arts Music and Arts Festival that William Parker and his wife hold once a year, and I was lucky enough to have been in John Chikai's band at the time with Ches Smith and Garrison Fuel, and Dmitry Yashenko was playing bass at the time, and we were able to play at one of the festivals years and years ago. That was the first amazing venue that I was very excited about and very excited to play at. I've played at the Tonic as well, the old Tonic, the Stone, but playing at that festival really settled in a way that made me feel I had arrived in a way. I think that's the way to put it. Sure.
Very cool. So
yeah. But Kansas City, just as a side note, I mean, I would imagine everybody passes. That's a mecca in itself. I mean, that's Charlie Parker land. That's
it's the lore and the history is pretty steep. We've kind of rebuilt our 18 and Fine district, which is still in development, but the Mutual Musicians Foundation, the local union there, everybody came through there, and they still have late night jams from like midnight to 5 a.m.
Oh, excellent.
So so there's still a really good tradition. A lot of cats come through. But New York just has a different vibe to it, and it's still such a hub. Sure. It's a place that everybody wants to go. So, in this process of being a professional musician, there's so many levels to it. You got recording, you got promoting, you got there's teaching, there's all of these things that go into it. What do you like the most about being a professional musician? What drives you?
Yeah, that's a great question. I love recording. I love the process of getting the musicians that I've picked or have been picked for to collaborate on a group of music that you've really shedded and have performed, and it's very warm, and then getting it down on wax, so to speak. And then the ability to take a couple of takes, perhaps, and choosing and going through the process of choosing which takes are the best, or from subtle differences that you want to have be finalized on a record. And then I love the mixing process too. So I'd say recording for me is really just something very, very special, and is a way, obviously, to make a personal imprint of your life and have it captured, and it's sort of a defined, encapsulated chapter in your life that can be later referenced to as far as your own discography, your own art, your own, and so that to me is a highlight of playing music for sure. Yeah, recording.
Yeah, for sure. And you've been at this for 3 decades plus. You've been around Wadado Leo Smith. You've been around so many veteran, esteemed, legendary players. What do you learn from the legends? What do you take from them and in turn teach younger players that you get around?
Yeah, great question. I think that the ability to learn from younger people and their takes on things and what they're interested in, what they're trying to infuse into their music, be it a vocabulary within the jazz idiom or a piece of music from a different genre that they're trying to splice into improvised music. And as far as imparting ideas and notions, thoughts to younger people, being open and trying to learn from everybody that you play with, and trying to make everybody shine, creating music in the moment that makes other people sound as good as they can. And that could be perhaps speaking a line, saying a line within an improvisational space that connects directly with a younger person, what they're saying on their instrument, to having them be the center stage and say, I want you to solo. This is a song that I want you to be the center of. And because that newness, the young person who's perhaps in a collaborative situation with older, more veteran people will feel excited and proud to be chosen to have his or her voice shine in that moment. So the music is going to have an extra real, genuine quality. And that's another thing. I think listening to your heart and listening to yourself as far as what you really, really, really want to do with your art, your music, always listen to that and never steer away from that. I think creating music that really resonates with you, be it as far out there as it might be or as far inside as it might be. If bebop is something that you really want to study and play, then you should pursue that. And if free, atonal, arrhythmic music is something that you really resonate with, then you should pursue that. Life is short, and the times to play your music are finite, and you never know when you won't be able to do that because of a virus that could take hold of a society, or a sickness that can ravage your own body, like cancer, or whatever it might be. You might have to take care of a loved one who's very sick, and your time might be compromised, or all kinds of things can happen to you in life where you have to put your music aside. And so if you're in a time and place where you can spend time to develop your art, then you really need to listen to what you really want to create. Yeah, that's a long-winded. Yeah.
No, it's great. No, that's great.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Very simply put, why do you love jazz?
I think for me, it really speaks to the spontaneity of it and the imagination part of it. Those two elements are really important to me as a human being. I think they're elements that a human being, opposed to any other animal, can tap into and really exercise the mind in a way that is extraordinarily helpful for the health of the body and the health of the mind. To not think in a level that you are having deadlines and need to adhere to a societal norm, like a 9-to-5 job, or any number one of the constrictions that happen to people in the world. The ability to let the aural, let the sonic be the ruler of things, and have the spontaneous and the arrhythmic and the atonal perhaps enter in and use that and have that part of your artistic creativity is essential for the development of a human being. I'd say jazz music really features the creative and the imagination in a way that just speaks to me in a way that I really love. I love acoustic music as well. So even though I play with electric musicians and synthetic musicians, but the acoustic instruments are something that really encapsulate a sound that needs to be practiced and rehearsed. And there's just something very human about tapping into an acoustic instrument, that there's no filters that electricity or digital means are part of. Yeah.
So let's get to the essence of you, and I'm going to ask you this. Everyone has a perception of you, your family, your friends, your fans, but ultimately you live your life. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Sure. God, that's a great question. I really love your questions.
Thank you.
Absolutely. They're well thought out. So I see myself as somebody who strives for something that's unfortunately outside of the very normal means of Western society in a way. Money never really was very important to me, and creativity and using my imagination are things that are important to me. So those things have been tapped by music, or that's been the vehicle. So I see myself as somebody who's focused in a direction of the abstract, of the surreal, of the that it's kind of a solo place. It's kind of a place that obviously has a community of other musicians, but that doesn't necessarily have to do with the mainstream. It has to do with something that's not the mainstream. I see myself as somebody who is a sensitive person to the pain that happens in the world via war, violence, racism. I think of myself as somebody who wants to be part of the side that tries to make the world a better place. And I think creating music is something that is part of that. It may not be feeding people in war-ravaged places, which is a much more direct way of healing the planet or people. But I believe creating music, creating art is something that helps people, helps the world in a way, perhaps albeit in a mild-mannered way. So I think I'm sensitive towards pain and loss, and I think that music helps me get through my troubles. I think music helps me get through pain that I've experienced in life, through loss of a lot of family members, say, and helps calm my mind. It helps me develop my mind at the same time. I hope that covers that question.
Yeah, it certainly does. Alex, where can anyone out there pick up a copy of Most Don't Have Enough or find out about any live shows, anything pertaining to your world? Where can they go?
Yeah, so the album actually doesn't come out till, officially it's not released until February 24th, but Bandcamp and, what's the other one? Oh my God, SoundCloud they're going to be on all the streaming services. And you can go to my website as well, alexweissmusic.com, and Spotify has got a couple of singles that we've released once a month, but the album is not released till the 24th of February. I hope that doesn't crimp your style as far as putting out this interview somewhere. All the streaming services, and then the CD will be available as well on the 24th.
No, cool. That's great. This is going to be a good precursor. Alex, it was great to get a little insight into your world, the new album, what's going on. Thank you for taking time out. Good luck with everything.
Thank you so much, man. Thank you so much. Please get in touch with me whenever you want. I really appreciate the time.
Thanks for listening and tuning in to another Neon Jazz interview, where we give you a bit of insight into the finest players in Brooklyn, Kansas City, and spots all over the world, giving fans all that jazz. Thanks to Alex for his time, energy, and cool. Find archived Neon Jazz interviews on Apple Podcast or Spotify. Subscribe to us at youtube.com. For all things Neon Jazz, visit us at theneonjazz.blogspot.com. Until next time, enjoy the jazz, my friends.
Neon Jazz.